Okay, this is finally the long-awaited, very, very long-awaited, because I'm a procrastinator and a half. The 7 Deadly Sins. My thoughts! Okay. So, 7 Deadly Sins is an anime. It is an anime from Japan and all that blah blah blah. You can call me a weeb. You can call me an otaku. You can call me whatever the hell you want, but I love me some good old-fashioned anime. Especially a shonen like this one very much is. Like the shonen is meant for for like teenage boy audiences, such as myself. I am, whatever the heck it's called. I am 18. So yes, I am still technically a teenage, well, sort of. I am, and by America, I am an adult and I'm a teenager at the same time. Because by most standards, you're not a teenager until you hit 20, and you don't end in teens, because I'm 18, 19, 20. Difference. But, so I'm finally going to be doing it on the 7 Deadly Sins. Now, the 7 Deadly Sins starts off after centuries after a holy war where demons and angels and like so on and so forth and humans were fighting. So we don't really know how it ends. We just kind of assume that the demons were lost because they don't really have control over the entire world. So then we pick up with this group. So these are the 7 sins, which are like the 7 strongest holy knights. I guess technically they're not holy knights anymore in the world. There is Meliodas, who is the middle sin. Well, he's the one in like the middle of the screen. He's the one that is whatever the heck it's called. He is the sin of like wrath, and his symbol is like a dragon. Each one of these have like these tattoos somewhere on their body. His is like on his arm somewhere. This guy's, I think that's it, like right here on his chest. But Meliodas, he is the leader. He is very, very short, but he's very, very strong. Then there is Diana, who is right here, who is, I don't really know each of their actual like individual sins, honestly. I never really thought about that. But, you know, all I really know is that what's his face is Wrath. And that's it. So all I really know is Meliodas is Wrath. But to be truthful, it's really not that important which sin is what, because it doesn't really define them in any way, shape, or form. I guess Meliodas, when he does get angry, he kind of does turn into like a half-demon state. So, you know. Oh, and if you couldn't already tell, there's going to be spoilers. So don't complain if, you know, you hear some. If you don't want any spoilers, then don't watch it. Currently, it's in its 2nd season, but I'm mostly going to be talking about the 1st season because I've only seen a couple episodes of the 2nd season. And, yeah, I need to get caught up on it. Plus, it's not really, like, finished. So, yeah, there's Meliodas, Diana, who's this lady right here. There's King, who's him. There's Ban, who's this guy. He's undying. Gothar, who is that person. Merlin, yes, the wizard Merlin. And this guy, he actually hasn't been in the show yet, but I do know his name is Escanor. Because they did, like, say his name once, I believe. So, basically, these were the strongest fighters. And they were convicted of a crime that they didn't actually do. They were framed for killing the King Holy Knight, the strongest Holy Knight in the time. And because of this, there was a bounty put on each of their head. And like so on and so forth, so they all fled in terror. Well, not really in terror. They could easily like wipe out the entire kingdom if they really wanted to. But they're nice guys and they're not going to do that because they don't want to do that. So, And then we start with basically the main character, who her name is Elizabeth. Now, she's not really on the screen, but basically she just has white hair and she's a cute anime girl who Meliodas spends a lot of time with. And apparently she looks very similar to who Meliodas used to be in love to. The reason I say used to be is because she is dead. That is established very early in the show that yeah, she died, and then he went sort of on like a mini rampage when she died because of reasons. So then they kind of go on like a quest to save the kingdom because it's in terrible need, as Elizabeth tells Meliodas very early in the show. And yeah, so they want to save the kingdom, so they need to get these 7 deadly sins back together to save it. So then they start exploring, trying to find people. And then the first person they run into is King. Now, as you can see, King actually has like 2 forms. This is his fairy form. He does have a human form, but he turns into a really big, fat, ugly thing. He is a human, but I'm calling him a thing. So he turns into that in his human form. It's pretty bad. And his legendary weapon, which they each have like their own legendary weapon, sort of. In the show they don't, but like when when they were still considered holy knights and were still considered good guys, they each had their own legendary weapon. He's the only one that actually kept his legendary weapon, except for Escanor, which, as I said, I really don't know if he has it or not. So, because he hasn't been in the show that I have seen so far. Because season 2 is on its way, or not on its way. It is like currently on, but I haven't kept up with it yet. So they meet him, and then a little bit later they meet Diana, who is this lady. His item is this pillow, by the way, and it just turns into basically whatever weapon he wants it to be. It has like 7 total forms. One of them is a flower that shoots a giant laser beam. It's pretty insane what his weapon can do. But he is the fairy king. King is. That's why his name is King, I believe. He does have like his fairy name, but they just call him King. So yes, and his backstory is basically he has a sister named Elena. Now he kind of left her in charge of the fairy kingdom, which was basically this giant forest, in order to help to like save fairies that decided to team up with humans and like explore out of the kingdom. So when he did this, though, he discovered that the humans were betraying the fairies and ripping off their wings, which is very cruel indeed. And he decided to... now, he actually doesn't have wings himself. I think just because he is the king, he doesn't have wings, and he's just capable of flying without them. But, like, all the other fairies, like, need their wings to fly. So once he discovered this, he then used his legendary weapon and he slaughtered the heck out of them. And because of this, he didn't really feel like going back to the main kingdom. He basically just wanted to kind of kill, I guess. But while he's doing this, he discovers baby Diana. So yes, Diana right here. He discovers her when she is a wee babe. Now, Diana's a giant. So when she was a baby, she was still like 20 feet tall. So he discovers her. He kind of like raises her for a little while and helps like take care of her before one day he just kind of randomly leaves. After falling in love with her. Yes, he falls in love with a baby. But, yeah, so then he leaves. I think part of the reason he did leave is because he fell in love with her. And, yeah, he leaves and, like, centuries pass and blah, 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 and he never really returns to the kingdom. Or by the time he does return, it's completely destroyed, which is going to get into Ban's lore. But first, we're going to go over Diana a little bit. So Diana, as I said, she's a giant. I believe she's like one of the queens of the giants or something like that. But we haven't seen a single other giant in the entire show just yet. So, well, to where I am. So I'm not really quite sure if she really is a queen or if they just call her a queen of the giants or like what. But she has like partial control over the earth because she's a queen. or because she is a giant, and that's really it. Besides that, she's just really big, so she has her giant strength, and then partial control of the earth. Nothing more. Okay, and in the second, technically in the between the first and second season, they came up with like a little side story where they just kind of like talked about a few things that you do actually need to see before you go and watch the second season, because it does explain a little bit. One of the things it explains is Diana actually regains all of her memories when she was a baby, because she had forgotten all of them of the time that she spent with King. And because of this, she falls in love with King. Now, previously she she was sorry about that, there's a small interruption. Previously she was in love with Meliodas. Now why, I just think she found him cool, and that was really it. But to where I am currently in this story, she is in love with King, which makes, he doesn't really know yet, but that would make him insanely happy, because he's still in love with her since all these centuries. Now we're going to go over to Ban. Now, when they originally found him in the story, he was locked up because he is unkillable, and like he still feels pain, but he doesn't really, like, he's been hurt so badly he doesn't really even acknowledge it anymore. Like, pain is just kind of, well, he doesn't care. He can just go through any pain. So he actually went to a group saying that this specific guy's pain is like the best. That for whatever reason, it's the only thing that really makes him feel pain anymore. So he turned himself in and got captured into this giant asylum. While here, their gang, as I said, they're looking for him. So they go to the asylum to free him. And he kind of like frees himself just because. Literally just because, no other reason. And then he gets back together, and Bane and Meliodas have the best, like, get back together time ever. So one of the knights actually puts his, whatever the heck it's called, like a seal on the entire, like, asylum, making it impossible for them to leave. Now, because of this, they didn't even realize while they're inside the asylum. And then Ban and him they ram into each other, grabbing each other's hands, start doing like patty cake, basically. They start punching each other just for fun. They do an arm wrestling contest, and the aftermath of their chaotic friendship get back togetherness actually destroys the asylum and the barrier that he put on it. So, you know, that was nice. Real good job with your barrier, sir. And that's really all that happens. So, well, in that regard. But then I'm going to go back on his backstory a little bit. So, Ban was originally, he was a thief, and he just kind of stole whatever the heck he wanted. He has some sort of like magical power where he can steal whatever he wants. He can actually steal your physical and magical. I don't know about magical. He can steal your physical capabilities. You will actually become like really weak, and he'll gain insane amounts of muscle because he steals it. Now you do get it back afterward, but nonetheless. He also gains this like basically a magical like tether like thing that he can control to steal things for him, basically. And that's really like his only real abilities besides his inhuman strength and his capability of not dying. So originally, as I said, he was a thief. And he wanted to steal from the Fountain of Youth, which is located in the center of the Fairy Kingdom on a giant tree. Now, because of this, he kind of like invaded their kingdom without them knowing and all that. And the protector of it, who was supposed to be king, was left up to Elena because, as I said, that king's sister, who he just kind of left in charge while he was away. Okay. But while this happened, he tried day in and day out, over and over and over again. and just constantly getting attacked by Elena because she actually controlled the tree and was capable of just flinging him off the tree whenever he wanted to, great distances, which luckily every single time he landed on a branch. They could not believe his luck because, like, usually the tree is so tall that it's like a skyscraper type size, meaning that he should have died from the fall every time, but managed to land on a branch or get caught by vines. So basically, he was insanely lucky every single time for days. So finally, he gets up there, and he doesn't steal the thing, but Elaine completely captures him. She completely ties him up in vines and says, "Why do you want this?" And he's like, "Because I want to be young forever. I want to live forever." And she's like, "Well, do you know that that'll kill the forest if you do that?" And he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I don't really want it anymore." And then she was like, "No, you definitely still want this," and didn't believe him. But then after a few days of him just kind of like talking with her and not drinking the water, she realized he was telling the truth, and then they actually started to fall in love. Then the next thing you know, a demon that survived the Holy War, known as like a red demon, attacks the forest and completely destroys it. And in the meantime, it's just Elena and Bane. Well, they really say like Bon in the thing, with like the Japanese accent and everything. And are like, they're not the last survivors, but they're the only ones trying to fight it. So he pulls out its heart, actually. He uses his tether capability, stabs it, and then rips out its heart. Now, he thinks that's going to kill it, but the creature actually has multiple hearts. So he ends up dying because the creature then shoots a laser through his stomach, or like cutting off his arm, but shoots straight through Elaine. So then he tries to get Elaine to drink the water because he's in love with her and all, and that's really it. But then she starts drinking it as he sees, and he like closes his eyes, but then the next thing you know, she kisses him and forces him to drink the water. So then he kills the demon and like mourns for her death. And then he brings her and basically all the surviving fairies to another area where he can restart the forest. So what he does is he plants the seeds, and then he actually cuts himself open and causes himself to bleed a ton over the seeds. And because his blood is actually infused with the Fountain of Youth, it causes the tree to grow at a much accelerated rate. And he does this once a year. That was said in the second movie, which is basically where I actually ended off, is they were still in the forest where a golem was about to attack. So he does this once a year to help the forest grow. So all the fairies moved in here, and they actually now call him King. So technically King is still their king, but King isn't. This King. Well, I don't really know if you can actually see my, whatever the heck it's called, my mouse. I don't think you can, now that I think about it. So, the king who's in the blue, he is king, he's in, like, the blue picture. Melados is the middle guy who's red. Gothar is the purple one who's to the right. Merlin is the one that's, like, the lighter color purple. Black is the Escanar, who I haven't seen yet. Yellow is Diana, and the tan color is Bane. So blue, as I said, is king. So he actually, as I said, when he returns back to his kingdom, it's completely destroyed from the demon, and he has no idea what's happened to it, so he just believes it's been destroyed and nothing more. He actually just, the second season, when he's following Ban, goes back there and realizes that everyone's still okay. He becomes really excited, and then he realizes that they all hate him for abandoning them in their time of need. Well, for not being there in their time of need, even though he's their king. That he should have been there to protect the kingdom from the demon, basically. And they call Bane the king. But he actually wants them to call King their king, but, you know, they refuse to do that, so blah, blah, blah. So then the next lore is Gothar. Now, Gothar himself, they actually find him in Season 1. He's the next guy that they find. So Gothar himself is the weapon. He is a human weapon. He is basically a robot. He does not understand human emotion, and he is literally a doll that has magic infused powers. He doesn't understand emotions at all, and that is basically his number one goal, is to try to understand them. He is capable of forcing people to like bend to his whim. He can rewrite memories, and basically that's it. That's like his magical capabilities. They find him with like an executioner force like after him, and that's really it. Then they kind of like save his life, sort of. But technically, they actually found his armor first, because he wore this gigantic armor for like no reason. Like, he couldn't actually fit into the armor. He just kind of used his magic to do it. But they found his armor that actually had a human with like a demon infused inside of them, which they ended up killing. So then later on in the story, more into season 2, he ends up getting not a girlfriend. He kind of rewrites the memories of a girl in order to actually save her life, because her memories caused her to have like insane amounts of suffering, and that pushed her to become evil. So he changed her memories to like change her mindset and everything, and then turned her into his girlfriend. So yes, not the best thing to do in the world. And then he ended up changing her memories so much that she forgot who her brother was, and made himself like her everything in an attempt to understand emotion, as I was saying. And he didn't understand why this was wrong, because like to him it was for an experiment. He got rid of the suffering that girl had, and replaced it with joy, but he didn't realize that like, yes, you do need to suffer sometimes in life too. And he didn't understand this, because I said he doesn't understand emotions. So, and then they kind of like turned him back into his doll form when he's literally like the size of like an actual like Barbie doll type deal. And that was in season 2. And in season 1, he really doesn't do much besides use his magic and fight. He actually ends up fighting Diana. Remember, that's the yellow person, the girl that's the giant, who is to the left of King, the blue. And only for a little while before Merlin, the wizard, comes over and turns him back into the doll form. Now, Merlin, as I said, is to the right of Gothar, who they actually find last in the first season. Merlin, yes, is the wizard based off of King Arthur, but instead of being a guy Merlin, she is a female Merlin. And yes, there is actually King Arthur in the in this in this anime as well, but he has much less of impact. He's only really showed like twice, and both times Merlin is helping him. And that's really it. And yes, Camelot does exist, where like King Arthur controls, and we don't really learn any of the backstory about Merlin, besides the fact that she is technically like the strongest member of the 7 deadly sins. Now, Meliodas is actually the strongest member, but only like sometimes. Like, there's a character in the game who is a pig, actually, named Hawk. Who's Merlin gave Hawk the capability of seeing power levels. So she noticed that Merlin has like the highest power level out of the group. Has no physical capabilities, but her magic level and like spiritual level is insanely high. That's the 3 levels that person can have, and then they have like their overall level. And yeah, like Merlin had the highest by a good amount, but Meliodas is still stronger, but only sometimes when he goes into like his half demon state. Which he actually gets the heck beaten out of him when he's in a half demon state, because he can't really control himself, and he's more of like just a yeah, he can't control his own actions while in that state. So, now there is a little bit more backstory about King, because in Season 1, while they're fighting the main bad guys, whose names are Dreyfus and Hendrickson, and there's a guy named Gilthunder, but he's not really in there all that much, because he was technically a bad guy, but he was forced to be one because the girl that he loved, who's actually a princess, who was Elizabeth's sister, not the real sister, but just a sister in general, was forced, like her life was on the line by a girl named Vivian, who was another knight. And Vivian basically loved Gilthunder and blah, blah, blah. That's like their own backstory. And Gilthunder's father was actually the guy that the 7 deadly sins were believed to kill. But Gilthunder, even when he was a child, which is when they believed to kill him, which, as I said, was false. Even when he was a child, he didn't believe that the 7 deadly sins could do this because he was very close to Meliodas. And, yeah. So then when he became older and he was forced to fight them from Vivian and Hendrickson and Dreyfus all forcing him, because Dreyfus technically wasn't evil, to be completely honest, and it was more Hendrickson. But yeah, that's just Gilthunder. So Hendrickson had a plan to open up the demon world and let all the demons back into the world to basically kill everyone. Not the nicest guy. And Dreyfus was on Hendrickson's side, not realizing that he was, whatever the heck it's called, trying to resurrect demons. So, because of this, whatever the heck it's called, because of this, towards the end of the movie, I keep wanting to say movie, towards the end of the anime season 1, Dreyfus kind of like turns on Hendrickson and gets himself killed. So Hendrickson actually fails, and he doesn't manage to, well, he sort of succeeds in season 2, but he doesn't manage to get the key, which is Meliodas' broken sword, to open up the demon dimension. And, oh yeah, well, when it comes to Merlin and Escanor, we don't really learn any of their backstories, as I was saying, except for that Merlin's like technically the strongest member. And as I said, I haven't even seen Escanor yet because he wasn't in season 1 at all. So yeah. So they finally get all together, and Elizabeth Leonis, who was, as I said, she was the main girl, technically the main character who found Meliodas and got the whole group back together except for Escanor. She was captured because they need to kill her in order to open up the gate, sort of. It won't open up, that's how do you open up the gate fully. You can open up the gate without killing her, but it won't cause a big enough effect. So she was captured, and because of this, Meliodas decides to attack the castle early. So he attacks the castle, and that's where Dreyfus dies, and then they realize the whole scheme that Hendrickson was actually turning holy knights, who are just knights that work for the king, into like half demon people that he could turn like into actual demons whenever he really wanted to. So they learned that he was doing this, and then everyone turns on Hendrickson, and then it's literally Hendrickson versus the world because Vivian was stopped, and like so on and so forth. And like even Gilthunder and all the other holy knights who originally were after the 7 deadly sins then teamed up with them, realizing that whatever the heck it's called, realizing that they were the good people all along. So then, as I said, it's Hendrickson versus the entire kingdom. Now, Hendrickson actually puts up a pretty big fight because first thing he does is he actually puts some, like, demon blood into his body because he was half demon person, but he controls himself, obviously. And that's actually how he murders Dreyfus, is just, like, kind of, like, disintegrating him. Yeah. So then they save, what's-her-face? They save Elizabeth. And then Bane/Ban goes insane and starts beating the heck out of Hendrickson because he realized that the demon that he's been getting the blood from, that he's been turning people into half demons and turned like himself into one, was from the red demon that he killed in the ancient forest that killed Elaine forever and a half ago. So because of that, he got super angry and then beat the heck out of Hendrickson. But then Hendrickson got a white demon, blood and put that into his system, which actually turned him into a much more powerful demon. And he actually fought the entire kingdom and was winning for a little while before Elizabeth turned into her like half angel state. That's why I said that she's not really, I don't think she's a legit daughter of the king, because as I said, she is like a princess. And she turns into like her half angel state and then kills, she doesn't kill, she just kind of heals everyone around her. Such as, whatever the heck it's called. It was actually a gray demon, not a white demon, by the way. That, whatever the heck it's called. That that he got the blood from, turning him into a much stronger demon form. Hendrickson. So then from there, she heals everyone around him, and then they defeat Hendrickson, and they don't actually defeat him technically. So then in Season 2, we find out that Hendrickson, even though he was scattered into like a million little pieces, he was still alive, and his body flew to each other, basically, and combined back into his normal state. And he actually did have Meliodas' sword, so he managed to open the demon dimension so far in the second season. And from opening the demon dimension, he let loose the 10 Commandments. Not quite sure why they're called this. From wherever the heck it's called. From from the demon dimension. So I don't think he lets out all 10, to be truthful. Maybe he did. But yeah, he lets out the demons, and then they don't really start amok where I am currently, but then the demons' golems that were like left over in the world from the Holy War end up getting revived because they sense the demon energy from like the 10 Commandments being in the area. And yeah. From there, they just kind of like start to attack the nearest area, and then Meliodas and them end up actually killing one of them, and that's really it. And then another one ends up being at wherever the heck it's called, the Ancient Forest, where, as I said, that's where like Bane and King are, and that's all. That's like where I got left off. Now, there is a bit more lore, such as the scar that you can see on the side of Bane's face right now. That's actually from Meliodas, because Bane tried to take the sword off of Meliodas, and because of that, he got really angry, and he stabbed him. And he used demon energy to stab him, which is apparently like the only thing that can actually hurt him. The reason I say this is because Bane doesn't have any other scars on his body except for that one, and that's the only scar that Meliodas ever like really gave him. Now, I'm pretty sure, since I know for a fact that Meliodas, just from like my own intuition and everything, Meliodas used to be one of the 10 Commandments, and his brother, whose name is, I'm not honestly sure, it's like Zeldris or something like that. And then he kind of like betrayed the 10 Commandments in the Holy War, and then he turned into like his current state. He's still like half demon, but yeah. And whenever he gets angry is really whenever anything happens. And that's really it when it comes to the lore. Well, to where I am anyway. So now Meliodas and all of them, as I said, they are the strongest people. They are the 7 deadly sins. And where they are now is they're about to fight the 10 Commandments, where they're just demons. The strongest demons, except for the Demon King, who isn't freed yet because as I said, they need to sacrifice Elaine's blood. Now, Elaine is an angel. I don't know what type of angel, but she is some sort of holy being. I know that much for a fact. I don't really know anything else except for the fact that she is one. That's really it. When it comes to that, anyway, when it comes to her lore. And that she's capable of healing people because of it. Now, there is a little bit more lore in there, such as the goddesses, who I think Elizabeth might be like a part of their group or whatever. The goddesses were capable of contacting actual humans and everything through this giant horn. And Ban actually went over and like tried to talk with them and tried to convince them to bring Elaine back to life. Because Elaine was actually in the show, besides when she was in the like the underworld in this afterlife state. And yeah. And she was actually told to or she told like King or Ban or one of them that they should tell the other to like not to worry, that they don't blame them, or just something along those lines. Because like Elaine, as I said, is in love with Ban as well. But what the goddesses said, they told Ban to kill Meliodas, and that's how they will get her back. But he decides to not to. Originally, he actually cut off Meliodas' arm, but then Meliodas just reattached it and using demon energy. And that's really it when it comes to that as well. Okay, and then Meliodas did destroy the horn. Like, he went over and started talking to it, and they just kind of, like, confirmed that he was half demon, and then he destroyed the horn. And I guess now we're finally, after 30 minutes of me talking, we're going to get to the actual, like, what I would have really done. Now, I wish that they had Escanor, I think that's his name, the last of the 7 deadly sins in Season 1. I'm not saying that like it had to be mandatory or anything like that, but I would have liked to see him. I wish I would have saw his abilities and everything, and like so on and so forth. I love it when a show takes forever to give you like the backstory of a person, honestly. And most of the time it is shonens doing it, so I'm very glad they did that. And so I'm like, as I said, I am very glad that Meliodas, we really don't know all of his backstory, that even like King and that, but I am glad that they gave us some or most of it, which we know all Bans, Dianas, and Kings. We really don't know Gothar's really all that much. And to be truthful, we kind of really don't know like Kings or Dianas either. We really know Bans because all he really did was just steal things and then fell in love, blah, 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 and is immortal. And the same, and like fairies are also, they're not immortal, meaning they, like Bane can get stabbed and it won't actually matter, he'll just heal. But like King can get stabbed and he won't heal, he just lives for a very long time based off of his actual health. And same with Giants with, whatever the heck it's called, with Diana. Merlin, I think she's human, and same with Escanor, so I think she can die. But Meliodas, because he's demon, he can't really die, and Gothar is a doll. Well, Meliodas can die from, like, wounds, but demon energy. So we technically really don't know everything that King's done, because we really don't know how they met the group, or how, yeah, like, certain things like that, how they met each other, and, like, so on and so forth. But we do know that for the most part that his friends are dead. Oh, and that he is capable of talking to one of his dead friends because they infuse spirit energy into his helmet that King now wears always. Well, he kind of like just attached it to his hoodie that he can put on whenever he wants. That's just a little piece of side lore. And yeah. So we really do know most of Diana's and King's lore, but we really don't know, like, when Diana was growing up, anything that happened to her there. With Meliodas, we really don't know anything about him. As I said, I just think he was part of the 10 Commandments because Zeldis, where I currently am, like, said a reference of Meliodas being his brother and that he betrayed him, and that's really all I got. And then Ban, as I said, we basically know everything. Gothar, I don't really like Gothar, honestly. I find Gothar pretty annoying. when he gets any screen time, because most of the time he says like one word sentences, and he's just like, he doesn't understand anything from being like the doll he is. As I said, like, he even got in a fight with people. He rewrites people's memories. He doesn't understand what's wrong. And even like earlier in the show, there was like a child who was crying from his mother being dead, and he actually turned himself like into the mother, because he can change his physical appearance whenever he wants to make the child happy, but it ended up making the child cry a ton because he made him miss his mother even more. So, yeah. So he really doesn't understand emotions at all, and I just find him very, very annoying. I'm going to be happy when they finally solve his issues and he finally starts understanding emotions that they'll probably do at some point in the show, or he'll just give up on trying to understand them and he stops becoming a pain in my arse, because I don't like him. I want to learn more about like Merlin's backstory, but to be truthful, I don't really think it's going to be that complicated. She seems to be... Also, I think that Merlin stole some of Meliodas' power because of whatever reason. Because currently in season 2, he kind of like looked at her and said, "I want what you stole from me," and she's just like, "We'll talk about this later." And basically, they're just going to keep trying to talk about it later. But yeah, I think that Merlin stole some of Meliodas' power because, as I said, like, her power level was really high and Meliodas' wasn't the highest. So as I was saying, I think he will probably get to like a higher magic level. I'm assuming he has a lot more magic capabilities, because he really only has one ability, which is he can send whatever attack you send to him back. And that's like the only magic he's ever used. Well, that and demon stuff. But I think he will actually have legit magic capabilities from like being able to get his energy back from Merlin. And then I can't wait to find out with Escanor. As I said, I really wish he was in season 1, honestly, just because I wanted to see him so badly. And when the 25th episode hit, I thought they were going to keep going. I thought it was going to be something weird, and they were going to get to like 55 episodes. But no, they just ended the season. It's like, excuse me? What happened to the 7th sin? Where did he go? Why did we not find him? Like, I'm glad that you saved Elizabeth and all that before you found him and everything. But nonetheless, where did he go? What is he doing? I don't even know what he looks like, what his name is. I know that it is Escanor because I kind of looked it up. But, come on! So, really, like, honestly, I wouldn't, as I said, this is literally my favorite anime, with, like, One Piece being part of like the top 10 too, and a few others that are really high up there that I plan on talking about, doing my thoughts in the future. But I have very, very little change. I think the animation style is wonderful. I think it looks great, that it sticks to... I hate when it gets too realistic, when animations like when they try to become like really, really realistic. I just think it's too much. And that they could have spent more time on other things. Now, I do think that like Fate Stay Night and all that, or Unlimited Budget Works, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, which isn't a meme for Unlimited Budget Works, because it looks god tier. Oh my god, it looks incredible. Like, that is the only one where because they don't really try to make it look realistic, they just try to make it look good. And they exceed. This show tries to make it look good, but in a less budget way. And I think that the art style in general just looks really nice. I like each character. I like the way that they're portrayed. I like that they have comedy mixed in with the action. That each character has a really serious backstory, but like you don't really see it at the start, and you need to like develop it and understand it over time. I like that. I wish that like some of them they just kind of hurry it up with. I like that you get a lot of the backstory like pretty quickly in like the first season and everything, and you don't need to wait 5 years. But I also do like having to wait a while, as I said earlier, because like with One Piece, I didn't learn Luffy's backstory until like the 500th episode, something along those lines. You don't understand his full backstory until there. Yeah, 800 episodes, you don't get it to like the 600th. That's a while to not understand one of the main characters' backstory. So I think that's a bit long, But at the same time, I enjoyed having it so far in there because it really gave quite a bit to like really understand and to see. I kind of wish that like Merlin also had a bit more to play in the first season, but I am happy that she like did get some screen time at least, unlike Elsinore or whatever, Escanor. But as I said, I still wish she got more screen time. Now I am happy that she's getting more screen time season 2, and I can't wait to see all of that. But yeah, and so really the only changes I would make or I would have done is change Gothar. I find him annoying as can be. I don't like him at all. I'd start throwing in like them getting their magical items a bit faster. Where I actually ended off, Meliodas got his magical weapon back, and technically Gothar is a magical weapon, and like technically, and Diana also got hers in season 1. So I guess I can't say that about hers, but I want to see. I don't think Merlin has a magical weapon, and I don't. And Ban has one, but he doesn't have it like in the show. He said that he lost it or something. So I want to see them at like their actual strongest power when they're using their weapons. I want to see some like badass fight scene. Like I want to see all 7 of them fighting off. I wish that there was a bit more just like really cool fight scenes in season 1. There was like really cool fights, but not with like as groups. It was more of like it was group, but not really, not in the sense that I'm talking about, where like each one of them are fighting at the same time, doing incredible things. It was more like they each attack one at a time, each doing their own individual thing. I want them to like cooperate. I would have thrown that in there when they fought Hendrickson or something, or when they fought Dreyfus or just somebody. I would have thrown that in there to kind of have just like a really cool fight scene is what I really just wanted to see. As I said, with Gothar, they need to hurry up with his lore. He just needs to get done. Merlin needs to have a bit more character development too. I want to learn more about her. I want the king, I want like the fairy group to whatever the heck it's called, kind of like change their idea towards him and actually make them the king and make him the king, unlike Ban, because Ban doesn't even want it. And I want Elaine to come back to life, and Diana and King to get together. I want to learn more about Meliodas because, as I said, he did have a girl that he loved, and her name was Liz. So there's Elizabeth, and then there's Liz. And she ended up dying, as I said, and I think she died like in the last Holy War, because when all the demons came back to life, or when they got out of like the demon dimension, they went to a crater in the ground, which Meliodas has made, which was the kingdom where Liz died at. And they were like, how did this place get completely destroyed? Oh, it had to be Meliodas. And like that's when they kind of made the reference that he was one of the 10 commandments. It's kind of funny how he's one of the 7 deadly sins and one of the 10 commandments. And yeah. So that's just like what I want to see come out of the series and what I wish to happen. Out of season 1, I think it was really good. I wish the Escanor and Merlin got more screen time. I wish Gothar was less annoying. And besides that, honestly, I really liked the show. I'm glad that they also gave Elizabeth a bit more than just being a pretty face, and that she is some sort of like goddess or angel. And I think that in general, they did a fantastic job on it. And as actually a person that, a YouTuber that I watched a decent amount, or yeah, Lost Pause, said that he wishes that people stopped like grossing over the show, or glossing over the show, where they like they see it and they go, oh, it's just another shonen, and like just pass by it. No, I wish more people saw it and recognized it for how good it really is, because there's a lot of like it can be a One Piece type show where it goes for several hundred episodes, and it can turn into such an incredible show. Now, I haven't read any of the manga from it, but I've also heard that like the manga is supposed to be god tier as well, and I honestly I kind of want to, and yeah. So, thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have anything to say about like how I've described Seven Deadly Sins, I know I haven't really given all that much of my thoughts on it, and that was much more of a just like description. But nonetheless, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. So as I was saying, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope to see you all next time for the next My Thoughts. And I'll bid you all adieu. Goodbye.